Perfect. There we go. We got it.
Awesome.
All right. So, yeah, so basically, you just kind of want to talk about what your background is, kind of your education, how you got into it, and like your position right now, kind of what you do.
I heard like half of that, Morgan.
Okay. Okay. So basically, I just kind of want to know kind of what your position is now, what you do, kind of like your education, your background, what you did, just kind of a little bit about you and how you got to where you're at.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I have been the executive director of the Wisconsin PGA for 26 years now. And with that, I also oversee the WPGA Junior Foundation, which we created in, I believe it was 1999. I had received my undergraduate degree from a state school in Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, in business management. After college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So the gentleman I took golf lessons from suggested I turn professional and get a job as an assistant pro. And if I like it, great. I could keep going in a golf career path, which had never dawned on me that that's something I could do. And I think that's true of a lot of people. And if I don't like it, his advice was I might likely meet somebody that could be, maybe it's in financials or accounting, things that interested me. But I actually loved it and did it for 4 years and played a lot of events and got as involved as I could at the facility I was at running events, and that kind of was a passion. So when the tournament director position in the Wisconsin PGA opened up, the executive director at the time called me up and asked me if I wanted to talk to him about the position, and I did, and I accepted it. And a year later, he told me he was leaving, and 3 months later, I was hired to replace him. So it was kind of a fast track, and I've been here ever since.
That's awesome. That's usually, I've noticed that a lot. It's like you don't really know you want to work in the golf industry until a long time after, and then it's kind of how I was. I was like, I didn't think I ever wanted to, and now I'm like, well, maybe I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, but so you said you're obviously the director of the Wisconsin PGA, and then the junior tour. Like, kind of what do those look like, and kind of like your work responsibilities, and I guess day to day, and what all that kind of entails, because a lot of people don't necessarily know what all that really is, and how many different
Sure.
sections and stuff there are.
Okay. PGA of America is broken up into 41 sections. Wisconsin is one of them. We're primarily Wisconsin and part of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Starting with our foundation, we this year will run about 130 events for kids. So very active, from 9-hole par 3 events up to 36 holes events for the best players in the state. It's grown significantly over the years. We have about 1,300 junior members, which for our size of state, I think we're pretty active, relative to other states, and pretty successful. Within that, we provide scholarships for kids, both to play in events if they need it, but then also for further education, college. In 2021, we anticipate providing approximately $40,000 in scholarships, which will get us close to $300,000 distributed since we started the scholarship part of it. Within our foundation, we also have PGA Hope, which is an acronym for Helping Our Patriots Everywhere. It's a free golf program for veterans to learn the game or enhance their skills in the game, or depending on where they're at. So we conduct those throughout the state, Milwaukee, Madison, Stevens Point area, Green Bay area, Kohler area. So it's a growing program. It's a great program. I think people get a lot of benefit out of it from our end as instructors, but then also the veterans seem very appreciative that, some of them are just taking up the game for the first time. So it's great. And some of them have played for years, and we have a mix of both. And it's fun to see the older not always older, but the more golf experienced veterans helping the newer ones. And, it's a great atmosphere. We're also focused, particularly in the last few years, more on diversity and inclusion as it relates both to women and minorities. The PGA is only, I'm going to say 6 to 7% women at this point. we have a staff of 5 and 2 of the 5 are women. So I think we're at least doing a medium job on our end. But, and then when you start talking minorities, Wisconsin is, I don't even know, I would venture to guess it's 97, 98% white. And that's just something that, we're trying to address and grow the game, starting with, not just youth, but also adults, getting more people into playing the game with the hope that once people start to play the game, then they'll look at it more as a business opportunity, career opportunity as well. Wisconsin section, 450 members, puts us right about in the middle of the 41. Our primary responsibilities are employment at facilities, it's education, creating opportunities for our members to learn. It is growing the game of golf to everyone that we can. We run a tournament series of about 45 to 50 events, highlighted by a Las Vegas Pro-Am, the Wisconsin State Open, and then our championships, our section championship, assistant senior, those types of things. We run a Pro-Am series of about 9 or 10 events. Very active. Summers are crazy and winters are really busy. People ask what you do in the winter, and quite frankly, those 170 events I mentioned don't magically get ready to be conducted without a lot of work. We recruit donors through our foundation. We recruit sponsors through our foundation and our section. So, it's really an active small business that, I have a part in all of. We have 4 other full-time people, and then we hire anywhere from 4 to 5 summer interns, plus a number of, like, we're calling them player assistants that help out at individual events, helping pace of play and stuff like that. So lots going on.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you guys do like part of the PGA Junior League and first team stuff? Is that part of your junior program too?
We run junior league. Again, we have probably 1,200 kids, 1,300 kids in junior league. We run drive, chip, and putt as well. We ran the first tee of Southeast Wisconsin for probably about a good 20 years, and about 5 years ago, myself and a couple other people made the decision to create its own foundation and move it out from underneath our umbrella, just to have, quite frankly, more community involvement and less. PGA professionals are great. Fundraising is not necessarily their forte. So we needed to create a board that had community people that would be more engaged and involved. And it's worked out really well. We still have PGA presidents on the board. I actually just completed a term about a year ago as president of that board. But yeah, they're doing more and better things since we broke them off. And
yeah, I know that's an area that's kind of starting to kind of come back and grow a little bit in different areas. So because it's
definitely.
Yeah, well, awesome. Obviously there's so many different varieties and tournaments that go on that a lot of people really just don't really necessarily knows what it all entails. I guess kind of like, what do you think golf is so different than other sports, because there's so many more options and avenues and stuff where it comes to, what do you think is so unique about the golf industry, and what separates it from other sporting industries, when it comes to employment and opportunities and stuff like that?
There's similarities and there's just differences. Absolutely. I think, people that major in sports administration, sports marketing, sports business, a lot of times they don't think of golf. Like, it's, unless they play it, it's not on the radar screen. And even sometimes when they do play, it's not on the radar screen. I don't think they realize the opportunities that are out there, and certainly not just through the PGA of America. That's one avenue. Obviously, there's 27,000 plus members of the PGA. I think people still think that primarily they only, and I don't use only in a bad way, but our head professionals are instructors. But that in the last 20 years has grown. Obviously, more and more are in the instruction area, but there's more and more general managers that are PGA professionals, sales representatives, marketing people. Most facilities have, bigger private resort have marketing people. They have tournament salespeople. They obviously have food and beverage. They have membership coordinators. They have social media people now at golf courses, where none of that really existed, before. But there's so much more that goes into generating memberships and sales than it used to be. I think the world was simpler back then. There wasn't as much competition in the golf world as there has been over the last 20 years. Such a large building boom in the late 80s throughout the 90s that, golf course our supply did get oversaturated to a certain extent. And I think through some closing, some additional growth in the game over the last 5 years, that gap has narrowed significantly. We'll see what 2020 ends up meaning to everybody. Courses were packed in 2020, and expecting big years again in 2021 as things start to open up. But it's such a safe place to be, and it's a great business to be in because there are so many options. The number one thing I always tell people that are interested is, if you're good at it, I think there's a lot of avenues for you. I just remind people that early on in your career, you have to be flexible with where you live, because that opening, you might be from where I am in southern Wisconsin near Milwaukee. That next opening could be in Philadelphia, it could be in San Diego, it could be in Austin. You just don't know. And if you pigeonhole yourself to one geographical location, the opportunities just shrink. Not saying, I could call myself lucky, absolutely. I fast tracked through in one location, but that's not the norm. Most of the time people move around. And a lot of times they end up back where they started, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people, when they think working in golf, they automatically think professional golf. I mean, that's kind of, people are like, I'm going to go work for the PGA, but they don't know how many sections fall under just the PGA, obviously. So with working in the different sections, what do you think is so unique about working for a PGA section, such as, Wisconsin or Indiana or something like that? Obviously there's so many different, you're working with juniors, working with amateurs, you're working with professionals. So like, what do you think is so unique about working within an organization like that?
I think if run properly, that you receive a lot of autonomy to do things how you want to do them and put your own stamp on things. And I like the fact that you're involved with the entire operation. Like I said, we're small. We only have 5 full-time people. So I try to make sure they all understand how the business works, how every little part impacts another part. Let them be creative with what they're doing. Let them do their own job. I have too much to do to make sure to watch what 4 other people are doing every day.
Yeah.
A lot of times in bigger businesses, you do one thing and you do it all day and you do it every day for, 50 weeks a year. With this, if you love running events, there's some bigger ones, some smaller ones. I think it's a great avenue. I think that there's lots of opportunities, and probably half the year where we live, it's an indoor job. The other half of the year, most of the time, it's an outdoor job. I mean, who doesn't want to visit 50 or 60 beautiful outdoor golf course locations throughout a season? And, there's weeks where I might be in my office 1 day a week tops because I'm out at events and meeting people and greeting people. And, basically in the service industry to make people have a great time. That's our goal.
So as we were talking about, how it's kind of evolved into all these different industries, what do you think, for somebody being in, sport administration, sport management, stuff like that, if they want to work in the golf industry, how would you think you would go about deciding, what avenue do I want to go down? Do I want to work in operations? Do I want to work behind the scenes? Do I want to do, what do you think is the best kind of route to go down that?
It's an interesting question. I think it depends on your golf experience. If you play the game and play it well, or at least reasonably well, I think the PGA is a great option. Certainly not for everybody, because you do have to pass a playing ability test to get in, which sounds harder than it is, but for some people it's very hard. It just depends on who you are. I will say briefly that the PGA has made it easier to pass your test, because now college events count, now state opens count, now state amateurs count. And I'm pushing to have them make the exception and have some junior tournaments count. Because everybody goes to college to have the opportunity to play in college events. And I would prefer to welcome, anybody that wants to get in to have a quicker pathway, and not an easier pathway, but a quicker one. and if that's the avenue, I think starting out as an assistant professional makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of cases.
Yeah.
And because you'll get exposed to all kinds, every part of being at a facility. And quite frankly, at that point, if you figure out, what I'm interested in teaching and coaching, then go down that path. If you can edit that out.
Sorry. That was good. My sister.
You can go down from that any part on the golf course side. But if you realize that you have something that you really care about or are passionate about, you can go towards that. The PGA is looking at 3 areas of education. It's either executive management, golf ops, or teaching and coaching. Focus your education on that and go in those directions. Working at section offices, state golf associations. There's lots of internship opportunities for the summer while you're in college to take advantage of that, and you'll get a small feel for whether you think that's an avenue you want to be in. Those people that are more into communications and marketing and social media, the larger sections and the larger amateur bodies have people that specialize in that. We kind of all do it ourselves as a part of what we do. I wouldn't say we're experts, but when resources are limited, you can't necessarily specialize in an area. And I think after you spend a summer or even a year, you're going to learn a lot more and understand where you want to be. All the tours out there that you could work for, all the individual not just major tournaments, but PGA Tour stops, Champions Tour stops. They all have staffs. They all have people working in different areas. The PGA, there's management companies like Troon that employ thousands of people. There's just so many avenues in this game that you can get into that I think you just kind of jump in and see what you like and don't like and go from there.
Yeah, and I think especially, with, I guess, people like us that are getting a master's in it, a lot of us have variety of diverse backgrounds when it comes to undergraduates. Some people have marketing, and I know some people have political science. And for me, mine was hospitality. Mine was hospitality and travel and tourism. So mine kind of all over. So I think with that, it kind of helps with the variety of options that you can have because of the fact that we have these different backgrounds as well, but we also have this different specialization. So going along with that, I guess people think, especially when it comes to junior golf, especially, there's so many different tours. And I think that gets overlooked so much, which, I love junior golf. I love the types of the programs that they offer, when it comes, obviously, AJGA and, the Hurricane Tour and PGA section. And I grew up playing and all that. So I love seeing how they operate. I guess when it comes to stuff like that, do you have any advice if people want to work in those types of in the junior golf industry and versus professional golf and easier, harder, that type of stuff depending on people's backgrounds?
Yeah, I don't know that any of these positions are easier or harder. They're different, and that's probably what you meant. But when you look at 31 of the 41 PGA sections run junior tours. 10 run a couple of events, but typically that space is then taken by the amateur body. So someone's doing it in every state. And with that, virtually all the interns we hire are junior golf related. I would say out of our 5 staff people, if I had to break out their time on how much they spend on junior golf initiatives versus section, that 5 is probably 3.5 junior and 1.5 section. It's such a busy thing. So tons of opportunities, tons of places. All of the state and regional golf associations have boat ride interns. It can be a few months, it could be as long as a year. The PGA of America keeps adding PGA Works fellowships, which are 1-year positions. We are on our 2nd Works fellow right now, and the lady that we had is our first one. She had her master's in sports management. She just went to work for the Philadelphia PGA, actually starting very soon. So
one of my really good friends just took the one at the Indiana. She played Michigan State. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
It was a newer position. So.
Yeah. And in fact, I think we may have talked to her back in the day, or I've certainly talked to Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a Works fellow before us. So those are great atmospheres to get your foot in the door. The AJGA hires their teams to run events kind of regionally around the country, and they're busy people for their 2.5, 3 months, but they learn a lot about whether that's a life that they like and want to. And quite frankly, a lot of the people that get hired at PGA sections and state golf associations did intern for the AJGA. They're a highly respected quality organization that does things right. You know, a couple of the other tours that are either regional or national, I think they also do the same thing. They don't have the same reputation. Not saying they're not good, but the AGAGA is obviously at the top of that level, getting the best players playing, and they do a good job of giving back as well with their ACE grant program. I think that's been a big positive addition for them to allow more kids the opportunity to participate. But if you're interested, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a place for you to at least get your foot in the door with
Yeah,
all those
sure.
different people doing it. I mean, in Texas, with how many events they run, I think they hire like 30 interns or something like that. That's a lot of opportunity, and they have 15 or more full-time staff, and a lot of those are dedicated to junior golf. So,
Well, I mean, I've interned for the IGA, and just how, I mean, Indiana, and then you look at size of Texas. I mean, even just me interning, I mean, I run 30 some tournaments versus
right.
what something like that. I mean, you have to have more because it's 3 times, 4 times the size of Indiana. So
Right.
it's amazing. And I mean, you have everywhere from beginner to advanced junior golfers. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a growing industry for sure. So I guess kind of just to round it out, I guess, what kind of recommendations would you have for graduate students that, want to work in the golf industry and pursuing work in this field, and kind of what steps should they take, for looking for jobs and where to find them, and, to try and find a position that will help them, get their foot in the door?
Yeah, that can be a tricky part if you don't know people in the industry, is just to find out that there's openings. The IAGA, it's the International Association of Golf Administrators. They keep a pretty, long list of openings, particularly in amateur associations. A lot of the PGA stuff doesn't hit that. Um, you know, I think most sections post their intern stuff on, like university sites. I know a lot of them went through, forgive me if I'm, but I'm pretty sure it's Indeed that a lot of them posted positions on this year, and are starting to use those more known platforms. I know there's a couple of them out there, but I think reaching out to local PGA sections or the AJGA, and nobody minds fielding a phone call or answering an email. It's just like, hey, I was wondering if you have opportunities for either internships or full-time employment in the junior golf space.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find quality people sometimes, so you don't ignore people that reach out and show an interest.
Yeah.
You respond and be like, hey, here's our timing, here's what we have going on, but here's some other ideas, or here's what, there's people that reach out to me because all the PGA sections will share their openings with each other in case they have former interns or whatever. That might be great. And there's people that I keep on like a little list, and I'll forward, there's probably 10 people, not a lot, but I'll forward these openings to them just in case they're interested, or maybe their friends might be interested. So it's just like anything, networking and following different sites. And like I said, the big thing to me is be willing to move, because early on in your career, it's probably going to be necessary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's pretty much all I had, and I really appreciate your time and, the information, and I know my classmates are going to appreciate it too. And that's about all I really have. But
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you reaching out, and good luck with everything, and good luck to everybody and with your careers.
thank you, and you have a successful summer and have fun in Vegas at the pro-am.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.